Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Let's Talk, our evening discussion program with our commentators, Tom and Marie.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
According to a recent report from the EU on the economies of the Eurozone, many companies are going through a difficult period. Senior managers are realizing that business as usual is no longer possible. Many companies need to embrace radical change in order to survive. What do you think about this situation?
Well, it's true that today companies must face up to the fact that they may have to change the way they do business. New technology is making this change necessary, and new competition can result in a company having to completely rethink its business plan.
I agree. Another example is when a company decides to enter a new market and becomes very successful. This success can require changes to the way the company does things. All these situations result in changes being needed to the way a company operates.
It's not easy to make changes to the way a company operates and the way people work. How can a company do this successfully?
Well, there's been a lot of research on this topic. It's called the change management process.
I see. So what are the elements of a successful change management process? Where do you start?
Well, it's important to analyze the situation carefully before embarking on a process of change. A good analyst will identify the key areas of a company's operations that need to be changed. Then an effective change strategy needs to be drawn up. This says exactly what needs to be changed.
That's right. Input to the strategy can come from the management team or an external consultant. In addition, all the company's workers should be asked for ideas.
Sorry, I don't quite follow that. Do you mean that the workers in a company should be able to decide what changes are made?
No, that's not what I mean. Everyone in the company should be canvassed for suggestions on changes that could be made to the company. This enables employees to buy into the change process. They feel included and are more likely to implement the changes once they've been decided.
Okay, I see. It's clear now. So, lots of people input into the change strategy. And what happens next?
Well, now the strategy has to be implemented. It has to be put into action. This can be the most difficult stage of the change management process. Staff need to be told about the changes, and some may need training on new ways of doing things. A member of the management team should be available to answer questions from employees about the changes taking place.
And once the changes have been implemented, is that it?
No, it's not. It's very important to consolidate the changes to make sure that employees don't go back to the old way of doing things. A manager should be chosen to act as a champion for the changes and should collect feedback from the employees to see what they think about the changes. This champion should praise employees who have implemented the changes.
Of course, it's very important to raise the morale of staff at this time. Otherwise, there is a risk that they'll revert back to the old way of doing things.
So it's quite a complex process. Well, companies need to know about change management techniques in order to survive in today's rapidly changing markets. Thanks to Tom and Marie for their explanation on how to bring about change in a company.
Goodbye, Eric.
Goodbye.
And goodbye, everyone, and see you again next week for another edition of Let's Talk. So, the change management process is the process a company uses to change the way it operates. Due to new technologies and new competition, many companies have to rethink their business plan. To rethink something means to reconsider, to think again about a choice you made before. A business plan is a strategy for running a company. Remember, to run a company means to manage it. Companies have to embrace change. To embrace something means to accept it and put it into practice. So, to embrace change means to start making changes. Companies must face up to the fact that they have to change the way they do business. To face up to something means to accept a difficult situation exists. So, how does the change management process work? First, an analyst identifies the areas that need to be changed. An analyst is an expert who looks at all the elements of a situation. He analyzes a situation. Everyone in a company should be canvassed for suggestions. To canvass means to ask people for their opinions. This enables employees, the people who work in the company, to buy into the changes. To buy into something means to believe in something. Then a strategy is drawn up. The phrasal verb to draw up means to prepare. We use it for documents. For example, you draw up a contract. The strategy must then be implemented. To implement means to put into action. Once the strategy is implemented, it's important to consolidate it. To consolidate it means to make stronger. And employees should be asked for feedback to see what they think of the changes. Feedback means opinions about something. Well, folks, we've come to the end of today's program. See you again soon.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talk Cinema. This morning, we'll be talking about the most famous of all science fiction sagas, Star Wars. As always, in the studio with me is Sanjeev Gupta, our cinema expert. Welcome, Sanjeev.
Hello, Lucy. Hello, everyone.
A question to start with, Sanjeev. Just how many films make up the Star Wars saga?
6 in all.
And how many of these have you seen?
All 6, of course. And you?
4, I think. When was the first film made?
The first film, A New Hope, was released in 1977. The last film, Revenge of the Sith, was released in 2005.
And who's the director?
Well, George Lucas wrote the scripts for all the films and directed 4 of them.
And what about the other 2?
Irvin Kershner is the director of The Empire Strikes Back, and Richard Marquand directed The Return of the Jedi.
What's so special about the Star Wars films, Sanjeev?
Lots of things, actually, Lucy. You know, the first Star Wars film, back in 1977, broke new ground with its special effects. New methods were used whereby the action shots were taken against a blue background with real models. It doesn't sound sophisticated compared with today's computer-generated effects, but 29 years ago, it was revolutionary. In fact, the amount of time Lucas spent on the special effects almost resulted in the film not being finished.
Why do you think the films have been so enormously popular?
We're dealing with science fiction here, but really the storylines in the films draw on themes common not only to science fiction, but also to classical mythology.
Really? Interesting.
Yes, then there's the obvious struggle between good and bad. There's the famous force, the energy field that can be used for good but also for bad. Love plays a big part in the saga, as does the eternal struggle for power and domination.
Love, power and domination, yes. So, have the films made a lot of money?
It's been estimated that the films, along with the TV series, books and video games that have been made around the Star Wars theme, have generated $20 billion over the last 29 years. So, $20 billion, yes, that's rather a lot of money.
And what about the music in the movies? I really love the music.
Yes, I think the music has played an important role in helping people to remember the films. John Williams composed the scores for all 6 films. The style he uses has changed as the years have gone by. In the first films, he associated leitmotifs with each character. Quite a simple approach. In the later films, he changed his mind and took a richer, more sophisticated approach to the music.
One last question. Is the saga definitely complete now?
I wouldn't bet on it. There are rumours that George Lucas may be working on a sequel, but for television, not for the cinema.
So, we may be seeing Luke Skywalker again soon, Wonderful. Well, thanks, Sanjeev, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
To all of you and Sanjeev, may the force be with you. Goodbye. Now, let's have a look at some of that vocabulary we just used. So, 6 films make up the Star Wars saga. To make up something here means to go together to form the whole of something. The 6 films form the entire saga. To make up something is a phrasal verb that can also mean to invent something. For example, I made up a story means I invented a story. The first Star Wars film was released in 1977. We say a film is released when it can be seen at the cinema for the first time. It broke new ground with its special effects. To break new ground means to do something for the first time. It broke new ground because it was the first film to shoot the action shots with real models. An action shot is a scene of a film with action. For example, a car chase or a battle. And what are special effects? They're visual effects added to a film after the shooting has been completed. The shooting is the filming process of a film. The special effects used in the first Star Wars films were not very sophisticated compared with the computer-generated effects of today's films. Computer-generated effects are special effects that are made using a computer. The soundtracks of the Star Wars films have also become very famous. The soundtrack of a film is its music. In the first films, John Williams, the composer of the soundtracks, associated leitmotifs with each character. A leitmotif is a reoccurring musical or visual theme associated with a particular character, situation, or emotion. Well, we have, as usual, run out of time, so goodbye for now.